Okay. Okay. Well, I can finally talk about this thing now that I have a running example. Um, okay, let's just get to it. The Lionel 1645, the Standard Atlantic 442. It is most likely based on a New York Central Atlantic. I think the number is 415. But it doesn't look exactly like that, but I think it's the most closely based engine. If that's not the number, I'll put what it is in the description. But, yeah, I think that is pretty much as close as I can figure out as to what this thing is based on. It has a different, it doesn't have this here, which I assume is a superheater. Um, it has a third dome here, which may be hidden superheater, but I don't know. Excuse me. All right. Now that we've pretty much covered what this is based on, of course, this doesn't have an exact basis. It was pretty much just cobbled together from a bunch of different locomotives to basically masquerade as a bunch of different locomotives, despite it being an Atlantic. This came in many sets through the years. I think they first started offering this in like 71 when they first actually released this particular model. And the tooling really didn't change until 2003, 2006 when this came out. And it looks pretty much exactly the same. I don't think they really changed anything. I think this is the exact same tooling for the locomotive. And they pretty much just packaged it with whatever tender was left over from overstock or who knows. They pretty much just grabbed one and said, okay, we're shipping it with this. And the Pennsylvania one generally got this. This is the tender that you will generally find with these things. Whether it says Pennsylvania, New York Central, Great Northern, Allegheny, just so many of these were released. These were the absolute most common starter set locomotive. Even Lionel's Christmas offering of 2003, 2006 had this locomotive, as that is technically a starter set. This has expansion packs, but yeah, I can guarantee these things, they suck. Yeah, I'm not going to step around the issue, ignore the white elephant in the room, ignore the elephant in the room. These things suck. They do. They really do. You can't really run these for very long. I mean, you can run them, just don't run them for too long. Because the boards, the last one of these I had, the board did a thing and released the magic smoke, and it fried the board. Because I don't know why. It just did. This one hasn't done that, and neither has my Christmas train version, so maybe it was a one-off issue. But, that is a thing to keep in mind. The smoke units in these things are very temperamental. They like to fail and just not work anymore. That's what happened with this one. My Christmas train hasn't done that yet, but I will expect that it will eventually. When the smoke units are operating, they actually do a pretty decent job. And as to the tender, it's the standard 2003, 2006 era tender. It's basically the same tender that they were packaging with this locomotive from 71 onwards, from the MPC era. This is a locomotive that has carried on from the MPC era just because it's a relatively cheap locomotive to produce. It is not a very expensive model. These are still to this day in 2026, as far as I know, are still featured in some starter sets. Not all, but there's a few that they still have these. Most of them have been taken over by the standard 080, but at least that's better. At least that has some actual pulling power behind it. This particular locomotive, I actually have the cars for. Well, 3 of them. I don't have the full expansion pack for the freight set or even the passenger set for this. Just how weak is it? Well, it barely manages to pull 6. If you have the expansion pack, you're going to be slightly underwhelmed because it barely does it. It barely pulls it. If you have a layout that is even slightly unlevel, if you have a layout that has a hill at all, it is going to struggle with even the 6 that it ends up being with, even with the expansion pack. If you try to put any more than 6 on it, it will struggle, if not just, stop completely. Not stop, but, sit there in place and wheel slip. Yeah, it is weak, very weak. Even with the traction tire on it, it is very weak. What can you do about it? Not much. With how cheap these things are, I don't really think it's worth it to try and fix the issues that these have. I mean, if you really want to, you can replace the smoke unit. I would suggest getting a different one than the one it has, but one that can actually fit in there. Yeah, that's going to be a difficult ordeal because it's pretty small. That's it. That's it right there. That little thing. That's it. That's all the space that it takes up. Now, you could technically get a bigger one, better one, and slot it in here, but you'd have to get really lucky to find one that fits in here. The upside to these is they're very easy to put on the track. Very easy to just set up and go. This is pretty much why they picked it for the starter sets. The tender is the standard air whistle tender, though there is one set of this particular locomotive, or is there more? I don't know. But I have seen at least one set that has I don't know, it's a sound, it has an actual sound system, not just the air whistle. It has a bell and an actual digital whistle and chuffing sounds. This doesn't have that. It just has the standard air whistle tender. If I ever come across that model, I think I'll get that. And then I actually got this for free, this locomotive in the 3 cars. Yeah. Nobody wants these. Nobody wants these. These are a starter set locomotive, and that is it. You are going to upgrade very quickly, or at least Lionel assumes you will, if you get these. Yeah, what I suggest is instead of, if you really want to get your kids into Lionel, and you want an electric one, you can't really go wrong with this, okay? I'll admit that. You can't really go wrong with this engine. It's a simple engine. It's going to work. It'll pull 6 cars. Question mark. Roughly. Kinda. It struggles a little, but it will do it. It'll pull 6 cars. And as for post-war cars, I don't think about that. I don't think it would even pull more than 3, if that. You might be able to get away with putting like an operating dump car, an operating log car and a post worker boost behind the thing, and it might pull that. It might. Maybe. I don't know. I'll have to see. I have that arrangement. I'll try it later. As for passenger car strength, well, it pulls the 3 that come in the expansion pack, but if you want to put anything behind it that you already have, you're probably going to have a rough time, unless it's something like these old tin plate ones. These will probably work very well because these are light and very light. These ones are a bit heavier and they would actually probably work. These would actually, I bet it would be able to pull these. It would be able to pull those two, or even 3 of these little tin plate ones. Or these 3 brown ones. Sorry, it's a bit of a mess. But then once you get into actual scale stuff, like the Baby Madisons or the full scale Madison heavyweights, and no, maybe MPC era stuff, maybe 2 of those. But as for actual Lionel stock, you're not going to be able to pull anything that's actually like heavier weight, that is probably more detailed, like these Rail King coaches that I have, MTH / Rail King coaches. These are 4 of their Madison heavyweights. It won't pull that. It won't even pull 3 of them. It won't even pull 2 of them. It only pulls the observation car. That's it. It will not pull any more than that. Even with a push. It will not do it. It will not. Not even 1 bit. Even after oiling the axles on those, it doesn't do it. Not even 2. It just does 1. Which is absolutely pitiful. That is absolutely pitiful. I have those up there, those Marks units, those can pull those 4. The 2037 can pull those 4. The 2026 actually can't. It can only pull 2, but at least it pulls 2. Yeah. You would probably be better off, if you want to upgrade from this locomotive from your starter set, you'd probably be better off even buying a Lionel 2026 from the post-war. If you can find one in as appalling condition as mine is and or was, you can see where this was plugged up. And you can see it's in pretty bad condition. I only paid $20 for this, and it came with the tender. And the 2037, it's in a bit better condition, but the funnel had the same issue. It was completely plugged up with just crap. This would be a better locomotive. This is a lot stronger than the Atlantic or the 2026. This is weaker, but it will pull 21 freight cars. It'll struggle a lot, but it'll do it. It pulls the 6 that this can barely pull with ease. It pulls the 6 plus 4 with ease. You know, that's 10, 11 cars. The 2037 can pull 21 cars with ease. It just does. The 2035 over here pulls the 21 cars with ease. The 2037 does struggle a little bit with 21, but it does do it. But, I mean, that's a long train. That is a long train, to be fair. I usually don't make it pull 21, but just, it can, which, you know, really shows that it can pull 21 modern cars. As for post-war cars, I really don't know. I know the K4 can pull all the ones that I have, but I don't know if this can. It probably can. I don't think this could. It would probably pull like 3, 6, 7 post-war cars. Honestly, if you want to upgrade from this, even a 1654 242 Scout would be better. It's the one without the plastic motor. That would be better. That would be better than this. It can pull 3 or 6 post-war cars, I think. It can pull the 6 that the Atlantic comes with ease. And as for overall cars that it can pull, I unfortunately don't have it here with me, but because it's in repair with a friend, but I think that it could probably pull the 6 plus 4, which is 10, plus the caboose is 11. It could probably pull 11 cars, which, you know, that's a pretty decent size of train. That's a pretty decent size of train. Yeah, pretty much anything is better than this except another one of these. Yeah, if you're thinking about getting another locomotive, don't cheap out and get another one of these. You're just gonna regret it. You're just going to have the same issues you were already having with this. If you get another one of these, just upgrade to a new locomotive, or look around at train shows. You never know. A lot of prices can be very high, but if you're willing to work on a locomotive and get it running, you can buy one for surprisingly cheap. Yeah, people are giving these Atlantics away for free or really cheap, but yeah, here's a warning. You really don't want these Atlantics. These go back all the way to the MPC era over many different numbers and tenders. Yeah. I'll just give you a good look at exactly what this thing looks like so that you can stay very clear away from this. Now, I will admit there are some positives to this model. I know that I've been putting it down for basically the entire video. The positives are, it is decently detailed. For what it is, a cheap starter set, it is decently detailed. It is metal. This is metal. It isn't plastic. Now, I think the spokes are plastic, and the little men inside the cab are plastic, but it has the engineer and driver, and it even has some amount of cab detail. It's not very highly detailed, but it does have some cab detail. As does the 2026, the 2037, I think. Yep. Well, minimal cab detail. But for the fact that you can sometimes find the 2037 or 2026 for as cheap as $20-$40 per locomotive and tender at train shows, if someone is really looking to get rid of them. I mean, I bought both of these for $20, engine and tender each. So, you know, $20 for both and $20 for both. That's $40 for two locomotives. Yes, they're both, technically they're both Pacifics, because this is basically Lionel's Pacific. They didn't make an actual Pacific until like the modern years. The post-war was full of these Adriatics that they basically just flipped a Pacific backwards because it could go around 027 better and faster, which, you know, that is more important to a kid who wants to run their trains fast. This video has been a lot longer than I originally wanted it to because I mostly rambled, but this is a good starter locomotive, this Atlantic, but to reiterate my point, you'll want to upgrade to something better, something that can actually pull at least 6 cars, and pretty much anything is better than this Atlantic. There are some things that you could do to make this better. You could try and put a weight in the boiler. There is space for a weight in there, and that probably would help, but in the end, the motor in here is less powerful than the 2037 motor, or even the 2026 motor, or I think this is even less powerful than the Scout that I mentioned earlier. Which there are a couple of Scouts that you shouldn't get, but the one that I mentioned, if that's the correct number, you should, because it's a pretty decent model and it's really reliable. And really, it really is reliable, and it just keeps going. I mean, I've had that particular Scout for a really long time. It was like the one that I got after I got this one, and that was a post-war Scout, and I got this, and I used the Scout a lot more than this. So the last time I used, this one runs, it does run. The last one of these that I had, the Atlantic, as I mentioned, didn't run. This one was to replace that one, but it did. The last one ran until it didn't. This one still runs, and this is the one that goes under the Christmas tree. But yeah, there are better locomotives than this. There's a few things you could do with this. Add a weight, mainly. You could try to put a new motor in this, but I think you'd have to do some modifications to the board to make that possible for the more powerful motor. And other than that, there's not really much you can do for this thing. It's just okay. Honestly, if you're getting this for a kid, it's their first train, actual real like O-gauge train, not like Thomas. It's going to be okay. It's going to run. It's going to pull 6 cars relatively well. It'll do it, but it'll struggle a little if your layout isn't perfectly level. But it'll pull 3 cars just fine, which, you know, even though is not exactly a realistic train, it will do it. And once they are like, you know, I think I want a new one, or you know, even if it ends up, you know, just finally not working anymore, or if they, say, oh, I'm ready to... I've beat the absolute heck out of this thing, and I think I'm ready for a new one, and I think I can take better care of that. Yeah, get them something else besides another Atlantic like this. This one is 1645, but yeah. I think I've said all I want to say.